When anxiety hits, do this first. Anxiety doesn't ask for permission. It arrives suddenly, without warning, without reason. One moment you're fine, the next your heart is racing. Your chest is tight, your thoughts are spiraling, and you don't know why. You just know something feels wrong, urgently wrong, like something terrible is about to happen, and you need to fix it now, but you don't know what to fix or how. So you search, you analyze, you try to figure out what's causing this, what triggered it, what you did wrong. And the more you search, the worse it gets, because anxiety doesn't respond to analysis. It doesn't calm down when you try to understand it. It intensifies. This book is different. It's not about understanding anxiety. It's not about figuring out why it's happening. It's about what to do. Right now, in this moment, when anxiety hits and you need to function, when panic is rising and you need to stay grounded, when your mind is racing and you need to slow down, this book teaches you what to do before panic takes over. Not later, not after you've calmed down, not when you've had time to process, but now, in the middle of it, when you need it most. These are not theories, these are not explanations, these are actions. Simple, specific actions that interrupt the anxiety spiral before it consumes you. And they work, not because they're complicated, but because they're immediate, because they meet anxiety where it is in the body, in the moment instead of trying to think it away. So if you're reading this while anxious, you're in the right place. If you're preparing for the next time it hits, you're in the right place. If you're tired of feeling powerless when anxiety arrives, you're in the right place. Stay here. Even if your mind is telling you to do something else, even if anxiety is telling you this won't help, stay, because what you're about to learn is not just information. It's survival. It's what to do first, before anything else, before the panic takes over. Introduction. Why anxiety feels urgent but isn't dangerous. Anxiety feels like an emergency, like something is desperately wrong, like you need to act immediately or something terrible will happen. Your heart races, your breath quickens, your muscles tense, your mind floods with worst-case scenarios. Everything in your body is screaming danger, threat, emergency, do something. Fix this now. And that urgency feels real. It feels like truth. Like your body is responding to actual danger. Like if you don't do something immediately, you'll be harmed. But here's what's actually happening. Your body is responding to perceived danger. Not actual danger, perceived. Your nervous system has detected a threat, real or imagined, and it's doing what it's designed to do, preparing you to fight or run, flooding you with adrenaline, sharpening your senses, increasing your heart rate, making you hyper-aware. All of this is supposed to help you survive. It's ancient wiring, designed for immediate physical threats. For predators, for life or death situations, for moments when you actually need to run or fight. But in modern life, most threats aren't physical. They're psychological, social, imagined, future-oriented, and your body can't tell the difference. It responds the same way to an imagined disaster as it does to a real one. The same way to social rejection as it does to physical danger. The same way to a worry about the future as it does to an immediate threat. So you feel all the urgency, all the panic, all the physical sensations of emergency. But there's no actual danger. Nothing is happening right now that requires you to run or fight. Nothing is threatening your survival in this moment. You're safe. Your body just doesn't know it yet. And that's the gap between what your body is telling you and what's actually true. Between the urgency you feel and the reality you're in. And that gap is where anxiety lives. In the space between perceived threat and actual safety. And as long as that gap exists, anxiety will persist. Not because you're in danger, but because your body believes you are, and belief is powerful. It creates real physical sensations, real fear, real panic, even when there's no real threat. So anxiety feels urgent, but it isn't dangerous. It's uncomfortable, it's distressing, it's overwhelming, but it's not dangerous. Your racing heart won't hurt you. Your rapid breathing won't harm you. Your spiraling thoughts won't destroy you. They're just sensations, responses, your body doing what it thinks it needs to do to keep you safe, even when safety isn't in question. And understanding this matters, not because it makes the anxiety go away, but because it changes how you respond to it. When you believe anxiety is dangerous, you fight it. You panic about the panic. You fear the fear. And that makes it worse. But when you understand that anxiety is urgent but not dangerous, you can respond differently. You can work with your body instead of against it. You can calm the nervous system instead of activating it further. You can interrupt the spiral instead of feeding it. And that's what these 6 steps do. They don't eliminate anxiety. They interrupt it. They give your nervous system what it actually needs to calm down. Not what your mind thinks it needs, what your body needs. Safety signals, grounding, presence, slowness. And when your body receives those signals, it starts to relax. The urgency begins to fade. The panic begins to ease, not because you figured out what was wrong, but because you stopped treating anxiety like an emergency and started treating it like what it is, a false alarm, loud, convincing, but false. And false alarms don't require solutions, they require reassurance. And that's what you're about to learn. How to reassure your nervous system. How to signal safety when your body is screaming danger. How to interrupt the panic before it takes over. Not by thinking, but by doing specific, immediate actions that calm anxiety at its source. In the body, in the moment, before it spirals beyond your control. Step 1. Stop asking why. Anxiety doesn't respond to logic. When anxiety hits, your first instinct is to ask why. Why am I feeling this way? What caused this? What's wrong with me? What triggered it? What did I do? You search your mind for reasons, for explanations, for something that makes sense of this overwhelming feeling. Because if you can understand it, maybe you can fix it. Maybe you can make it stop. But here's the problem: anxiety doesn't respond to logic. It doesn't calm down when you figure out why it's there. In fact, asking why usually makes it worse. Because when you're anxious, your mind is not objective. It's not rational. It's in threat mode. And in threat mode, it looks for danger, for problems, for reasons to be afraid. So when you ask why, your mind doesn't give you neutral answers. It gives you catastrophic ones. Maybe it's because something's wrong with my health. Maybe it's because I'm failing. Maybe it's because something terrible is about to happen. Maybe it's because I can't handle life. Every answer your anxious mind provides is designed to confirm the threat, to justify the fear, to keep you activated, because that's what anxious minds do. They look for evidence that the fear is valid, and they always find it, not because it's true, but because that's what they're designed to do. So asking why doesn't bring clarity, it brings more anxiety, more spiraling, more searching for problems that may not exist. And even if you do find a reason, even if you identify a trigger, it doesn't make the anxiety go away. Because anxiety isn't just about the trigger, it's about your nervous system's response. And that response is already activated, already flooding your body with stress hormones, already creating physical sensations. And those sensations don't care about logic. They don't care about explanations. They just are. So the first step is not to understand. It's to stop trying to understand, at least for now. At least while the anxiety is active. You can analyze later. You can reflect later. You can process later. But right now, in this moment, asking why is not helping. It's feeding the spiral, so stop. Stop searching for reasons. Stop analyzing what went wrong. Stop trying to figure out what this means. Just stop and accept that you're anxious right now, in this moment, for reasons that don't matter right now. You're anxious. That's the only truth you need to hold. Not why, just that it's here. And instead of asking why, you ask what. What do I need right now? Not why do I feel this way, but what will help right now? And the answer is not understanding, it's grounding, it's presence, it's action that calms your nervous system. Not analysis that activates it further. So release the need to know why. Release the search for explanations. Release the belief that understanding will make it stop. It won't, not right now. Right now, you need something different. You need to interrupt the spiral, and the way you do that is not by thinking more. It's by thinking less, by dropping the why, and moving to the what. What can I do right now? That's the only question that matters. And the answer is in the next steps. Not in your thoughts, not in your analysis, not in your search for reasons, but in your body, in your breath, in your presence. That's where relief begins, not in understanding, but in action. Simple, immediate action that doesn't require you to know why. Just what to do, right now. And that's what you're about to learn. Step 2. Ground the body first. Safety starts in the body. When anxiety hits, it's not just in your mind, it's in your body. Your heart is racing, your chest is tight, your breath is shallow, your muscles are tense, your stomach is churning. These are not just symptoms of anxiety, they are anxiety, the physical manifestation of your nervous system's response. And your mind interprets these sensations as evidence of danger. Racing heart, something is wrong. Tight chest, I can't breathe. Tense muscles, I'm not safe. And that interpretation creates more anxiety, which creates more physical sensations, which creates more anxiety. It's a loop, and it feeds itself. But here's what breaks the loop: grounding your body. Not calming your mind, not thinking different thoughts, but changing your physical state. Because your nervous system doesn't respond to thoughts. It responds to signals, physical signals, sensory signals, signals that say you're safe, you're here, you're grounded. And when your body receives those signals, it starts to calm. Not immediately, not completely, but it begins. So the second step is to ground your body right now, before you do anything else. And grounding is simple. It's not complicated. It's not esoteric. It's physical, immediate, accessible. One of the fastest ways to ground is through your feet. Feel them on the floor. Press them down. Notice the contact, the weight, the stability. Your feet are connected to the ground. That connection is real, solid, present. And when you focus on it, when you actually feel it, you bring yourself into the present moment. Out of your spiraling thoughts, out of your racing mind, into your body, into now. Another way to ground is through touch. Press your hands together, firmly. Feel the pressure, the warmth, the realness of your own touch. Or touch something with texture, a wall, a table, fabric, your own skin. Then focus on the sensation, not on your thoughts, on the physical feeling of touch. This is not distraction, this is signal. You're telling your nervous system, I'm here, I'm in my body, I'm present. And that presence is safety. Because when you're present, you're not in the imagined future. You're not in the catastrophic what-ifs. You're here, in this moment, where right now you're okay. Another grounding technique is temperature. Splash cold water on your face. Hold ice in your hands. Feel the cold, sharp, immediate, undeniable. Cold interrupts the nervous system. It brings you into the present moment. It shifts your focus from internal panic to external sensation. And that shift matters, because anxiety lives in internal focus. In thoughts, in imagined scenarios, in sensations you're interpreting as dangerous. But when you shift to external focus, to physical sensation, the anxiety loses some of its grip. Not all of it, but some, enough to create space, enough to interrupt the spiral, enough to remind your body, I'm here. I'm safe, I'm grounded. And grounding doesn't make anxiety disappear, but it changes the intensity. It takes you from overwhelming to manageable, from panic to discomfort, from I can't handle this to I'm handling this. And that shift is everything, because once you're grounded, you can take the next step. You can slow down, you can breathe, you can stay present, but without grounding first, everything else is harder, because your body is still screaming danger. And your mind is still interpreting that as truth. So ground first, always, before you try to calm your thoughts, before you try to reason with yourself, before you try to make the anxiety go away. Ground. Feel your feet, press your hands, touch something real. Use cold, use pressure, use anything that brings you into your body, into this moment, into the physical reality that you're here. You're present, you're safe, not because nothing is wrong, but because right now in this moment you're okay. And that's enough to start, to ground, to take the next step. Step 3. Slow the internal speed. Anxiety is speed without direction. When you're anxious, everything inside you is moving fast. Your thoughts are racing. Your heart is pounding. Your breath is quick and shallow. Your mind is jumping from one worry to the next without pause. Everything is urgent. Everything is fast. And that speed feels productive, like you're doing something, like you're trying to solve the problem. But you're not. You're just moving fast, without direction, without purpose. Just speed for the sake of speed, and speed doesn't calm anxiety. It fuels it. because your nervous system interprets speed as danger, as emergency, as a signal that you need to keep running. Keep moving, keep escaping. So the third step is to slow down, deliberately, intentionally, against every instinct that's telling you to move faster. And the fastest way to slow the internal speed is through your breath, not just any breathing, but slower breathing, longer exhales, because your exhale is what signals safety to your nervous system, not your inhale, your exhale. When you breathe in, your heart rate increases slightly. When you breathe out, it decreases. This is normal. This is how your body works. And when you extend your exhale, when you make it longer than your inhale, you're telling your nervous system it's safe to slow down. It's safe to relax. It's safe to stop running. So try this right now. Breathe in for a count of 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And breathe out for a count of 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. The exhale is longer, slower. And that slowness is the signal, not the breath itself. The slowness. Do it again. In for 4, out for 6. And again. You don't have to do this perfectly. You don't have to count exactly. You just have to make your exhale longer than your inhale. That's it. And as you do this, you'll notice something. Your body starts to slow down. Your heart rate begins to ease. Your thoughts start to quiet. Not dramatically, not immediately, but gradually, because you're interrupting the speed. You're signaling to your nervous system that the emergency is over, that it's safe to slow down. And your body listens, not because you're forcing it, but because you're giving it what it needs. Permission to slow. Another way to slow the internal speed is through movement, but not fast movement, slow movement, deliberate movement, like walking slowly, feeling each step. Noticing the shift of weight from one foot to the other, the contact with the ground, the rhythm slow, steady, grounded, or moving your arms slowly, reaching up, bringing them down, feeling the stretch, the release, the deliberateness of moving without rushing. This is not exercise. This is not about burning energy. This is about changing the internal speed. About signaling to your body we're slowing down now. We're not running, we're moving with intention, with presence, with slowness. And slowness is safety, because when you're in danger, you move fast. When you're safe, you can move slow. So by moving slowly, you're telling your nervous system I'm safe. I don't need to run. I can move with ease. And your body responds. It starts to believe the signal. It starts to slow down. Not completely, not all at once, but enough to create space, enough to interrupt the spiral, enough to give you back some control over your breath, over your body, over the speed that was controlling you. So slow down, breathe slower. Move slower, speak slower if you're speaking. Think slower if you can, just slow, deliberately, against the urgency, against the panic, against the belief that you need to move fast. You don't. You need to slow down. And slowing down is not giving up. It's not letting anxiety win. It's taking back control by refusing to match its speed. By choosing your own pace, slow, steady, grounded, and from that slowness, clarity begins to return, not answers, not solutions, but presence. The ability to be here, in this moment, at this pace, where anxiety doesn't control you. You control your response to it, and that response is slow, always slow. First. Step 4. Reduce threat perception. Your mind is guessing, not predicting. When you're anxious, your mind is full of threats, things that could go wrong, disasters that might happen, dangers that feel imminent. And these thoughts feel like truth, like predictions, like your mind is warning you about real future events. But that's not what's happening. Your mind is not predicting the future. It's guessing based on incomplete information, based on past experiences, based on fear. Not based on what's actually happening, not based on evidence, not based on reality, just guessing. And anxious guesses are always catastrophic, always worst case, always threat-oriented. Because that's what anxious minds do. They scan for danger. They imagine the worst. They prepare you for disasters that haven't happened and likely won't. But they feel real, so real that you believe them. You believe the disaster is coming. You believe the threat is real. You believe you need to prepare, to worry, to fix it before it happens. But you don't. Because most of what your anxious mind predicts never happens. Most of the catastrophes never arrive. Most of the threats are imagined, not real. So the fourth step is to reduce threat perception, not by convincing yourself nothing bad will ever happen, but by recognizing that your mind is guessing, and guesses are not facts. So when your mind says, "What if this goes terribly wrong?" you don't have to believe it. You can acknowledge it. Oh, my mind is guessing again. Not, "You're right, it will go terribly wrong." Just, my mind is making a guess, and I don't have to treat that guess as truth. This is not positive thinking. This is not pretending everything is fine. This is just recognizing the difference between a thought and a fact, between a fear and a prediction, between what your mind is imagining and what's actually happening. Right now, in this moment, what's actually happening, not what could happen, not what might happen. What is happening right now? And usually right now you're okay, you're breathing. You're here. Nothing terrible is actively occurring. The disaster your mind is predicting hasn't arrived, and it may never arrive. So you bring yourself back to now, to what's real, to what's actually happening instead of what might happen. This is not denial. This is presence. And presence reduces threat perception. Because when you're present, you're not in the imagined future. You're here, where things are manageable, where you can handle what's in front of you, where the catastrophe isn't happening. Another way to reduce threat perception is to question the catastrophe, not to dismiss it, but to examine it. Your mind says this will be a disaster. You ask, will it, or is that a guess? Your mind says, I can't handle this. You ask, can't I? Or am I just afraid I can't? Your mind says something terrible is going to happen. You ask, is it? Or is my mind imagining the worst? These questions don't eliminate the fear, but they create distance between you and the thought, between the fear and the truth. And in that distance, you have choice. You can choose not to believe every catastrophic thought. You can choose to recognize them as guesses, as possibilities, not certainties, as fears, not facts. And when you do that, when you reduce threat perception by questioning the catastrophe, your nervous system starts to relax because it's receiving a different signal. Not danger is imminent, but my mind is afraid. But I'm okay, and that distinction matters. Because it means you're not at the mercy of every anxious thought. You can observe them, acknowledge them, and choose not to treat them as truth, not because they're not real to you, but because they're not accurate predictions of the future. They're guesses, and guesses can be wrong, often or wrong, and you don't have to build your life around them. You don't have to prepare for disasters that haven't happened. You don't have to live in fear of maybes. You can stay here, in now, where you're okay, where the threat is imagined, not real, where you can handle what's actually in front of you, not what might be in front of you someday, but what's here, now, and now you're okay. Step 5. Stay present without fighting. What you resist intensifies. When anxiety arrives, your first instinct is to fight it, to push it away, to make it stop, to resist the feelings, the thoughts, the physical sensations. You don't want to feel this way, so you fight. You tell yourself, stop being anxious. Calm down. Don't think about that. Just relax. But it doesn't work. The more you resist, the stronger the anxiety becomes. The more you fight, the more intense it gets. Because resistance is tension, and tension is what anxiety feeds on. When you resist anxiety, you're sending your nervous system a message. That message is, this is dangerous. This shouldn't be happening. I need to fight this. And your nervous system responds. It activates further. It increases the alarm. It creates more anxiety. Because it believes you. It believes that if you're fighting this hard, there must be a real threat. So it helps you fight. With more adrenaline, more tension, more panic, and the cycle continues. This is why fighting anxiety makes it worse. Not because you're doing it wrong, but because fighting is resistance, and resistance intensifies what you're resisting. So the fifth step is not to fight. It's to stay present, without fighting. This is hard, maybe the hardest step, because every instinct is telling you to resist, to push the anxiety away, to make it stop. But you don't. You stay. You allow it to be here, not because you want it, not because you're giving up, but because allowing is the opposite of resistance. And when you stop resisting, the intensity begins to ease. So how do you stay present without fighting? You start by acknowledging what's here. I'm anxious right now, that's all. Not I shouldn't be anxious, not this is terrible. Just I'm anxious, this is what I'm feeling. And it's okay for it to be here. This doesn't mean you like it. This doesn't mean you're okay with feeling this way. It just means you're not adding resistance to it. You're not fighting it, you're letting it be. And when you let it be, something shifts. The intensity doesn't spike, the panic doesn't escalate, because you're not feeding it with resistance. You're just here with it, allowing it. Another way to stay present without fighting is to observe the sensations. Not to analyze them, just to notice them. My chest is tight, my heart is racing, my hands are shaking. These are just sensations. They're uncomfortable, but they're not dangerous. And when you observe them without judgment, without labeling them as bad or wrong, they start to lose their power. Because you're not reacting to them, you're just noticing them. Like clouds passing in the sky. You see them, you acknowledge them, but you don't try to push them away. You just let them be, and they pass. Not immediately. But they do. Because sensations are temporary. They rise, they peak, they fall, and when you're not fighting them, they move through you. This is staying present, not forcing calm, not demanding that the anxiety leave. Just being here, with what is, without adding resistance, without adding judgment, without adding the story that this shouldn't be happening. It is happening, and that's okay. Not ideal, not pleasant. But okay, you can handle this. Not by fighting it, but by allowing it. By staying present with it. By being here in this moment with this discomfort. And knowing that it will pass. Not because you forced it to, but because everything passes. Every feeling, every sensation, every wave of anxiety. They all peak and they all fall. And when you're not fighting, the fall happens sooner. The intensity eases quicker because you're not keeping it alive with resistance. You're just letting it be. And in that allowing, there's relief. Not the relief of the anxiety being gone, but the relief of not fighting anymore, of not adding struggle to discomfort, of just being here with what is, and that's enough. Step 6. Let the wave pass. Anxiety always peaks and falls. This is the truth about anxiety that no one tells you. It doesn't last forever. It feels like it will. It feels endless. Like this intensity will never ease. Like you'll be stuck in this panic forever. But you won't, because anxiety is a wave. It rises, it builds, it peaks. And then it falls, always. Every single time, no matter how intense it gets. No matter how overwhelming it feels. It peaks, and then it starts to come down. Not because you did something to make it stop, but because that's what waves do. They rise and fall, and anxiety is no different. But when you're in it, when you're at the peak, you don't believe this. You think this time is different. This time it won't pass. This time you won't be able to handle it. But you will, because you always have. Every time anxiety has hit before, it passed. Every wave you've been through, you survived. Not because you're special, but because anxiety always passes. It's temporary. By nature, it cannot sustain its peak intensity. Your body can't maintain that level of activation. Your nervous system can't stay flooded indefinitely. It will come down, not immediately, but inevitably. So the sixth step is to let the wave pass. Not to force it down. Not to make it stop, but to wait. To stay, to ride it out. Like standing in the ocean when a wave comes. You don't fight the wave. You don't try to stop it. You let it wash over you. You stay grounded, you stay steady, and you let it pass. Because it will, and anxiety is the same. When the wave hits, you stay. You ground yourself, you breathe, you slow down, you stay present, and you wait, not passively, not helplessly, but actively, with the knowledge that this will pass, that the peak will come, and then the fall, and all you have to do is stay, not fight, not resist. Just stay here, in your body, in this moment. Breathing, grounded, present, and the wave will do what waves do. It will rise, it will peak, and it will fall, and you'll still be here, intact, breathing. Okay, not because you defeated the anxiety, but because you let it pass, without fighting, without resisting, without believing it would last forever. You just stayed, and it passed, like it always does. And this knowing, this deep, embodied knowing that anxiety always passes, is what takes away its power. Not the power to make you uncomfortable, but the power to make you believe you won't survive it. Because you will. You always do. Not because you're strong, not because you're brave, but because anxiety is temporary, and temporary things pass, always. So when the next wave comes, you remember this. You remember that it will peak, and it will fall, and all you have to do is stay, breathe, ground yourself, and wait, not for relief, Not for the anxiety to disappear, just for the peak. And then the fall, because it's coming. It always does, and you'll still be here, on the other side, breathing, grounded, okay. Conclusion. You survived this moment before you've been here before. Maybe not exactly like this. Maybe not with this exact trigger. Maybe not with this exact intensity. But you've been anxious before. You've felt panic before. You've felt overwhelmed before. And every single time you survived, you made it through. Not because you did everything perfectly. Not because you followed all the steps. Not because you had it all figured out. But because anxiety is temporary, and you are resilient, even when you don't feel resilient. Even when you feel like you're barely holding on. Even when you think you can't handle one more moment. You can, and you do. Again and again, you survive the wave. You make it to the other side. And you're still here, still breathing. Still okay, not unscathed. Not unaffected, but okay. And that matters. Because it means anxiety doesn't win. It might visit. It might overwhelm you. It might make you uncomfortable. But it doesn't destroy you. It doesn't break you. It doesn't take you out. You survive it, every time. And these 6 steps are not magic. They won't make anxiety disappear forever. They won't prevent it from coming back. But they will help you survive it. More easily, more quickly. With less panic. With less resistance. With more groundedness. More presence. More trust that you can handle this. Not because it's easy, but because you've done it before. And you'll do it again. And again. As many times as it takes. Until one day anxiety arrives and you don't panic about the panic. You don't fear the fear. You just notice it. Oh, anxiety is here. And you remember what to do. You stop asking why. You ground your body. You slow down. You reduce threat perception. You stay present without fighting. You let the wave pass, and it does. Not because you're cured, not because you're healed, but because you know how to respond now. You know what helps. You know what makes it worse. And you choose what helps. Not perfectly, not every time, but more often than before. And that's progress. Not the absence of anxiety, but the presence of response. The knowledge that you're not helpless. That you have tools. That you can interrupt the spiral. That you can survive the wave. That you've done it before. And you'll do it again. And that knowing, that deep, embodied knowing, is what changes everything. Not the anxiety, but your relationship to it. You're not at its mercy anymore. You're not powerless anymore. You're not drowning anymore. You're riding the wave. And you know it will pass, because it always does. And you'll still be here, breathing, grounded, okay. And that's enough. Closing moment. Anxiety will come again, you know that now. It doesn't ask permission. It doesn't wait for a good time. It just arrives, but now you know what to do. Not to make it disappear, but to survive it. To stay grounded, to interrupt the spiral, to let the wave pass. You know, to stop asking why. To ground your body first, to slow down deliberately, to reduce threat perception, to stay present without fighting, to let it peak and fall. These are not cures, they're responses. And responses are power, the power to choose how you meet anxiety. Not with panic, not with resistance, but with presence, with grounding, with the knowledge that you've survived this before. And you'll survive it again, so the next time anxiety hits, and it will, you'll remember this. you'll remember what to do first. Not everything, just one thing. Ground yourself. Slow down, stay present. Let the wave pass. And you will. You always do. Breathe, you're okay. You've always been okay. Even when you didn't feel okay, you survived. And you will again.